Hello and welcome to our program. President Moon Jae-in of South Korea urged North Korea coming back to the table for dialogue, and Chinese President Xi Jinping is making a state visit to Pyongyang. Xi Jinping's visit to North Korea was expected, but why now? We're going to take a deep dive on these issues in this edition of Peace and Prosperity.
President Moon Jae-in proposed denuclearization peace plan during state visits to 3 Nordic nations, including Finland, Norway, and Sweden. Through delivering speeches at Oslo Forum in Norway on June 12th and to Swedish Parliament in Stockholm on June 14th, President Moon emphasized peace for the people and trust through dialogue to urge North Korea to carry out a complete denuclearization.
국제사회는 북한이 진정으로 노력하면 이에 대해 즉각적으로 응답할 것입니다.
While President Moon said he is ready to talk with North Korea regardless of time, place, and form, Kim Jong-un made a surprise visit to Panmunjom on June 12th. She brought with her condolence letter and flowers to pay tribute to the death of Lee Hee-ho, late former First Lady and widow of former President Kim Dae-jung. President Trump said he received a letter from North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on June 10th, local time.
I just received a beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un. I can't show you the letter, obviously, but it was a very personal, very warm, very nice letter. I appreciate it.
It's the first top-down exchange between the leaders of North Korea and the U.S. since the breakdown of Hanoi summit. Kim's letters acted as catalyst that opened up 2 summits in the past. On June 20th, Chinese President Xi Jinping paid a 2-day visit to North Korea. This was Xi's first state visit to Kim's regime and the first of its kind from a Chinese leader in 14 years. From the active call-out by President Moon Jae-in to the North Korea-U.S. letter diplomacy and Xi's state visit to North Korea, a series of high-level diplomatic activities has occurred around the Korean peninsula in June. And the world is paying attention if it could renew hopes of dialogue which broke down in Hanoi.
We are very pleased to have Professor Kim Jae-chun of Sogang University, expert on international politics and U.S. foreign policy. Welcome.
It's good to be here.
As you have seen the VCR, President Moon Jae-in visited 3 Nordic countries and made a pitch to North Korea about trust and peace. What's your reading of the achievement made by President's visit to those countries?
Well, first and foremost, President Moon wants to revive the momentum for nuclear negotiations, which have been in stalemate since the Hanoi summit. So he wants to break the stalemate, and he wants to keep playing the role of mediator. So for that, President Moon sent this clear message to North Korea that nuclear negotiation will have to be restarted and the peace on the Korean Peninsula should be maintained. So in Oslo, he emphasized the importance of resumption of nuclear negotiation and also maintaining peace on the Korean Peninsula is very important. So overall, I think he looked pretty confident that he could be able to rekindle the momentum for nuclear negotiations. So overall, I assess the president's speech and his diplomatic efforts in these Nordic countries in positive manner.
And this time, the onus was on North Korea to take the actions. The key words of the president's recent state visit and his speeches could be described as peace, dialogue, and trust. Let's listen to what President Moon had to say.
저는 오늘 이 자리에서 남과 북 간의 3가지 신뢰를 제안합니다. 첫째, 남과 북 국민 간의 신뢰입니다. 대화의 창을 항상 열어두고 소통하기를 포기하지 않는다면 오해는 줄이고 이해는 넓힐 수 있습니다. 둘째, 대화에 대한 신뢰입니다. 평화는 평화로운 방법으로만 실현될 수 있습니다. 그것이 대화입니다. 북한의 평화를 지켜주는 것도 핵무기가 아닌 대화입니다. 셋째, 국제사회의 신뢰입니다. 북한은 완전한 핵폐기와 평화체제 구축 의지를 국제사회에 실질적으로 보여줘야 합니다.
Three kinds of trust. Trust between people of the two Koreas, trust in dialogue, and trust of the international society. Those are trust emphasized in President Moon's speech. What's your reading of this, his emphasis on trust?
Well, obviously, as I said, he is putting some pressure on North Korea. As you mentioned earlier, President Moon's position was that we will have to do lifting of sanctions at an earlier stage of denuclearization. But I think he backtracked from that position to a certain extent and saying that, hey, you know, the trust is very important thing, but you will have to earn it really by taking some substantial steps toward denuclearization. That way you can earn the trust of international community, and if that happens, regime guarantee will be there and lifting of sanctions will be there. So there is a change of I mean, what comes really first. I think President Moon is saying that you will have to do more, and then sanctions.
North Korea has to do more
yeah.
and first. Okay.
That's the reading of my reading of his speech.
Okay. Chinese President Xi Jinping visited North Korea 1 night and 2 days, especially considering that this year is the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic relationship between North Korea and China. This summit took place in Pyongyang for the first time in 14 years. Here are some of the clips from the past meetings between the two sides.
It was the first state visit to North Korea by a Chinese leader in 14 years since 2005. The last state visit to North Korea by a Chinese president was made by Hu Jintao in October 2005. Before that, President Liu Shaoqi visited North Korea in 1963, and President Jiang Zemin visited North Korea twice each in 1990 and 2001. President Xi visited North Korea and met with Kim Jong-un in June 2008, but he was vice president of the nation at the time. North Korea-China summit mostly took place in China. Kim Jong-il visited China 8 times while he was in power from 1994 to 2011. Kim made a surprise visit to China for a summit with then-President Jiang Zemin. Kim Jong-un succeeded his father as North Korean leader in 2012 and has visited China 4 times from March 2018 to January this year to meet President Xi. Kim reportedly offered an invite to North Korea to Xi during his China visit in January. Kim Jong-un has met with Xi Jinping before and after holding 2 crucial summits with the U.S. Xi's visit to North Korea is grabbing attention as it could possibly affect the situation on the Korean Peninsula.
What's your take on Xi Jinping's visit to North Korea, which is his first?
Well, this year, North Korea and China celebrating a 70th anniversary of establishing formal diplomatic relations between the two countries. So, but what we really need to pay attention to President Xi's visit to North Korea this time is that this took place in the middle of heightening tensions between the U.S. and China. It seems to me that two countries are really going all out to fight this hegemonic struggle or hegemonic war, if you will. And recently, the U.S. is playing Hong Kong card, Taiwan card,
right.
Huawei card, really whatnot. So maybe President Xi is thinking that if you are playing these cards, what I can do here is playing North Korean cards. So he's got an option here. He can pressurize North Koreans and into doing something very substantial. That way he can please President Trump, and that way he can elicit some concessions on the front of trade war front. Or he can be very stern, and he can actually say to Chairman Kim that, well, you gotta stay the course. We will be in full support of your position, so do not swerve, do not change the course, and I will support you guys with all our hearts. So if that happens, this is going to give a very hard time to President Trump. So either way, he's got a card, North Korean card.
In fact, there were several cases where she could have visited North Korea in the past, but it never happened. China might have concluded that it had less to gain from North Korea visit, but why now? Let's hear from what experts had to say.
시진핑 주석이 방북을 미뤄온 것은 미중 무역 경쟁 속에서 미국에 부정적인 이미지를 주지 않기 위해서였다고 보는데 2주 전부터 미중 경쟁이 치열해지면서 트럼프 대통령이 미국 행정부가 대만 문제를 건드리고 또 홍콩 시위를 미국이 지원한 듯한 인상을 중국이 받았을 거예요. 따라서 중국도 입장을 바꿔서 북한 카드를 활용하겠다 하는 결심을 한 것 같고 공세적으로 나갔다. 그래서 전격적으로 평양 방문을 결정했다. 이렇게 생각합니다.
So what do you think? What kind of action Xi Jinping is going to take? And will it affect positively about the future of the trade war between China and the United States, or this might aggravate the current trade war between the two countries?
It remains to be seen. As I said, he's got two options here to elicit concessions from Trump on trade war front. He might put some pressure on North Korea. You guys will have to do more to denuclearize. That way he can please Trump and then he can elicit some concessions on the front of trade war. But I think for the time being, he will try to maintain strategic ambiguity. He's not going to his card. He's not going to put down his card. I think he'll just keep that card hidden. I mean, just waving this card and imparting this message to Trump that I got this card. So either way, it's your choice. So. I don't know. I think it's possible for the two leaders to compromise during the G20 summit in Osaka, but it's going to be a temporary patch-up, a temporary ceasefire agreement. But the overall, in the grand scheme of the things, the rivalry between the two countries will be heating up down the road, and we are looking at some 30 years of really intensive strategic hegemonic struggle between the two countries.
China has to give North Korea something as incentives. What would be that something given by Xi Jinping to North Korea?
That I don't know. I think there is I mean, President Xi can't really do much. I really don't think she has strong leverage over North Korea when there is a limit to China can help out on North Korean economy, because after all, China is a party to these sanctions regime. I mean, UN Security Council member agreed on resolution on these important sanctions. So what China can do is help North Koreans be behind, but this is not going to improve on North Korea's economy dramatically. Just moral support is very important. China can say that, or together with North Korea and Russians, that, well, we might want to multilateralize nuclear negotiation. So far, it has been a bilateral negotiation between North Korea and the U.S. If this is not working, we will be stepping in, and this can make a denuclearization equation very, very complicated. So there are ways in which China can make this very, very difficult for the Trump administration to deal with the current situation. So it's not really any palpable or economic monetary support that, although China will do more to help out North Koreans, but it's more of a moral support, and also yes, hinting at the possibility of stepping in this negotiation and saying that, well, regime guarantee should be there first, or sanctions should be lifted at earlier stage. That way, President Xi and China can complicate the situations on the Korean Peninsula. So it's more of a disincentive.
Disincentive, not incentive. But China is really angered at the trade war with the United States. So it might be likely for Xi Jinping to, even in violation of at least part of the United Nations Security Council resolutions on North Korea, to lift economic sanctions on North Korea?
So we really have to see. I guess.
China crossing the red line.
So yeah, it's going to be quite difficult for China to cross the red line because China acutely realizes that they are on the defensive in this trade war, and it's not really a right time to pick a fight against the United States. So he could be a little bit more, I don't know, but you know, by maintaining a strategic ambiguity with regard to North Korea, he can clearly impart the message to the Trump administration. There is an option we got here that is North Korea option. It can be either way, really. We can put pressure on North Korea, but you'll have to you know, give us some concessions, or you know, it can be all out. You are using all these cards, and I can really use North Korean card instantly and ask North Koreans to not to swerve and stick to the original positions. So it could work either way.
Either way.
Yeah.
During the state visit to Nordic nations, President Moon said holding Inter-Korean summit in June is not necessarily impossible. Here are some comments from experts.
6월 말 한미 정상회담에 대한 기대가 김정은 위원장이 확실하다고 그러면 김정은 위원장이 전격적으로 6월 말 이전에 남북 정상회담에 정말로 형식과 조건과 관계없이 남북 정상회담에 응할 개연성도 지금 남아 있습니다.
북중 정상회담으로 인해서 이번 주가 사실상 정상회담에 개최되지 못하고 지나갔고, 다음 주에는 G20 다자 정상회담과 한미 정상회담이 예정되어 있기 때문에 현실적으로 남북 정상회담이 개최되기에는 시간적 여력이 없어지게 되었습니다.
Very short question to you after the video clip. Will there be Inter-Korean summit meeting in June?
In June, I don't think it's possible because there isn't just enough time. No matter how brief this Inter-Korean summit, this one-point Inter-Korean summit is going to be, given.
But we had a one-point summit meeting last May.
Right? But President Xi went there, and we just. The communication between North Korea and South Korea, I'm not really sure whether the communication has been active since the Hanoi summit. Physically impossible. Maybe after President Moon and then President Trump, the summit between South Korea and the United States, Chairman Kim might become more open to Inter-Korean summit because he may need an update on Moon-Trump summits. So it's a possibility after
June.
Korea, after June, after Korea, South Korea, the U.S., after Moon-Trump summit. But before the summit between President Moon and Trump, I think it's a remote possibility.
Okay.
Almost impossibility.
We'll make
yes.
sure that we're going to invite you back in the studio after the end of June to confirm this. Kim Jong-un doesn't look like he's shying away from opening up a dialogue. He sent a letter to Trump in honor of the anniversary of the Singapore summit, and Trump called the letter beautiful. And the President Moon Jae-in, meanwhile, made an interesting comment about this. Let's have a look.
그 친서 내용 속에는 트럼프 대통령께서 발표하시지 않은 아주 흥미로운 대목도 있습니다. 그러나 트럼프 대통령께서 발표하신 내용 이상으로 제가 먼저 말씀드릴 수는 없다는 양해를 구합니다.
As you watch, the President Moon Jae-in made an interesting hint that there's something very interesting in the letter. What is it? Is it like a godfather making an offer that cannot be refused?
It's anybody's guess, but I don't think it was an offer that President Trump could not resist or reject. It's not a Godfather movie. I mean, it was a Godfather movie, and if there had been any irresistible offer that Trump couldn't resist. I mean, this could have already jump-started negotiation between the two countries, or at least this should have rejuvenated negotiation, the stalled negotiation between the U.S. and North Korea. So I don't think it was any kinds of groundbreaking offer that North Korean leaders suggested in the letter. What it could have been is that this message that Kim Jong-un conveyed to Trump, that we are still very much interested in negotiation with the Americans, and maybe he praised Trump, or maybe Kim Jong-un conveyed this message that I have this unwavering trust in you. So that part, maybe
it's
for that part,
right?
yeah, Trump said that it's beautiful, but I don't know.
And I have learned that 14th of June happens to be President Trump's birthday. So I guess there's a personal touch in the letter. All the discussions we had today leads to what Kim Jong-un would choose to do. Kim received President Moon's offer. He greeted President Xi Jinping to North Korea, and he is now pondering about what his next move should be. What will Kim decide to do? We asked this question to some experts.
북미 관계 정상화로 가면 관계 정상화되면 대북제 제재는 자연히 따라오는 거거든요. 그러니까 김정은 위원장의 지금 생각은 대북제재 해제를 목표로 하지만 그거보다 상위의 관계 개선에 주력을 함으로써 대북제재는 따르는 부수적 효과로 얻어가겠다는 입장을 전환한 거라고 볼 수 있거든요.
그러니까 최소한의 핵을 보유하고 싶어하는 그러한 협상을 하는 것이 아닐까 의심스럽게 지켜볼 수밖에 없는데요. 그러한 협상을 관철하기 위해서 단계적 비핵화 협상을 해야만 하는 것이고, 그 부분을 미국에게 관철시키기 위해서 지금 시간을 두면서 서서히 미국을 압박하고 있다 생각합니다.
We have heard from some experts about Kim's next moves. What's your thought on Kim's next moves?
I think Kim is in really a dilemma-like situation here. On the one hand, he's weighing in to take that new path or new way that he mentioned during this year's New Year's speech, new way or new path, including self-reliant economy. But I think Kim Jong-un himself knows that self-reliant economy is not a possibility. It's not possible. And a part of a new way could be making this nuclear negotiation more multilateral in nature, leaning more toward the Chinese or Russians. But as I said, there's a limit to for Russians and Chinese to help out on North Korea on nuclear weapons issues. So he understands that new path is not going to happen. So if he really wants to return to nuclear negotiation, he'll have to agree on having this a big deal. I mean, big deal doesn't necessarily mean that North Korea will have to get rid of all these WMDs from A to Z that Trump administration asked for during the Hanoi summit. I mean, I think it was like the highest bid that the Trump administration placed. I mean, it was a bit of a bluffing. I mean, North Korea was bluffing as well. You know, we will take care of Yongbyon, and you'll have to get rid of all these 3 sanctions that came in place, you know, after 2016. I think Kim Jong-un knew that was not possible. So. But each side is bluffing to a certain extent. But one thing for sure, one thing that Trump administration made it very clear is that we got to know the end point of denuclearization, and also the end point of what really constitutes a security guarantee to North Korea, and rough, you know, timetable and then roadmap with which we will implement that comprehensive agreement, if not big deals. So. Unless North Korea agrees on having a comprehensive agreement, I don't think nuclear negotiation between the U.S. and North Korea will be restarted. So, yeah, I mean, something's got to leave. I mean, North Korea, Kim Jong-un wants to maintain core nuclear weapons capability. What Kim Jong-un has wanted was a nuclear arms reduction talk with the Americans, retaining core nuclear weapons capability. At the same time, he wanted key sanctions to be lifted. But that's not going to happen. You can't have them both. Something's got to give here. So that's why I'm saying Kim Jong-un is in dilemma-like situation here, and he has to make a strategic decision for the nuclear talk get going. So the way I see it, the more time that he takes to make this decision, it'll put him in a very, very precarious condition. I don't really think time is on the side of North Korea here. So sooner or later, North Korea, the leader there, Kim Jong-un, will really have to make a strategic decision.
Yeah, this is going to be a very stressful hot summer for Kim. Thank you very much for sharing your insight.
It was a pleasure.
It would be interesting to see whether President Moon's active call out for dialogue and Xi Jinping's visit to North Korea could renew hopes of stalled nuclear talks. That's all we have for you at this hour. Thanks for watching.